All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my session today on small group literacy supports. Oops. My name is Tatiana Silva. I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. This is the professional me. I am a TOSA, which is teacher on special assignment at Roland Elementary School. So I'm not like in the classroom anymore, but I do other things for the school, like coordinate SST meetings, coordinate and do interventions for a school, and lots of other things. I'm also part of the OCRA board, and I've been a board member for quite a few years now, but currently I am the vice president of membership. I've been teaching for 10 years. I have a master's degree in literacy and reading and a reading specialist credential that I got from Cal State Fullerton. A little more about me, the personal side of me. This is my family over here. So that's my boyfriend, Paul. We've been together for about 14 years. My son, Anthony, he just turned 21 this year. And then my daughter, Olivia, who is 4 years old. And I like to watch Netflix. Or should I say, I like to scroll through Netflix for hours trying to decide what to watch and then not decide what to watch because I can't figure it out. So I like to watch the previews on Netflix. But when I'm not watching Netflix, then we're watching Disney Plus because of my 4-year-old daughter. Currently, the movie of choice is Turning Red, that we've seen over and over and over again. And when I'm not watching TV, I enjoy sleeping. So yeah, so that's me. You know all about me now, the professional me and the personal side of me. So since you know all about me, I want to hear a little bit about you. So in the chat, if you can just share like a fact about yourself, it could be anything, your current teaching position, or if you're a student, something you like to do, anything about yourself. Go ahead and just put it in the chat. Hiking, yes, hiking's fun. I like that. Netflix too. Yep, Netflix watcher. Scrolling through Netflix. Yes. I'm telling you, like, I think we all go through it, right? We can't figure out what to watch. We're just watching previews. Sleeping. Yep, another sleeper. Cooking and baking. Nice. I can't cook at all, but I like to eat. Yes. Eating. Yes, and that's another one. Another hiking. Nice. Thanks. Well, thanks for sharing a little bit about yourselves. Let's keep going. So today's objectives, we have 3 objectives. First one is to understand why data-driven decision-making is important and talk about some different types of assessment we could use. And then we'll get into the reading progression. So just kind of understand a child's progression through the reading process. And then we're going to spend the bulk of our time with the interventions piece. So the data and the reading progression piece won't be too long. Like I said, we'll have most of our time here because I want to show you different types of small group interventions that you can implement in the classroom for each stage of the reading progression. So go ahead and start by reading this quote here, or these quotes here. I'll go ahead and give you a minute. Okay. So basically, to sum it up, you know, we need to have a wide range of data sets to make some critical instructional decisions that meet the needs of our students. You know, if we just followed a curriculum from front cover to back cover, that's not necessarily going to be enough, right? It's not going to meet all the needs of our kiddos. It's not going to address all of their academic needs. And it won't create these authentic learning experiences and opportunities that address our students' interests, strengths, and needs. So that's why it's really important that we gather information from data to help us differentiate instruction for our kiddos in the classroom. So like I said, you need a variety of assessments. So here are some that I listed. So there's formal assessments. So those are they're like an evaluation. They tend to be planned like at the end of a unit or at the end of an intervention cycle. So like diagnostic assessments that focus in on like a particular skill, like maybe like phonics or like letter sounds. And then of course, standardized assessments like state testing, or I know like some schools do STAR testing and things like that. And then there's also informal assessments like running records, reading inventories, student interest questionnaires or activities, and then parent questionnaires. And these help us to assess like the students' attitudes towards reading, their motivation to read. We get to learn their likes and their dislikes, so that way we can use all that information and incorporate it when we start to implement interventions in small groups with our students. And then this right here, if you click on it, this is a choice board that I created for last summer, a session I did last summer. And basically it just has a whole wide range of assessments, from like reading assessments to spelling inventories, phonics, fluency, writing samples, parent surveys, motivation to read. And when you click on the first video or the first image, it's a quick video of me explaining each assessment and what it assesses and how to give the assessment. And then the second image is either like a hard copy of the assessment that you can print and use, or an additional article to learn more about it. So we're not going to dig into this right now, but once I share the presentation link with you, then you'll have access to this, so you can learn more about any of these assessments here. Okay. All right. Let's get back into it then. Okay. Yeah, so in the chat, so what are, can you tell me what are some assessments that you have used, or if you haven't used any yet, or you haven't used a lot of them yet, maybe what are some that you would like to learn more about? So I'll go ahead and give you a minute to drop that in the chat, please. All right. Yeah, running records. Yes, love doing running records. So phonics assessments. Yes, QRI 5. Reading assessments, phonics assessments, phonemic awareness assessments. Great. I want to learn more about reading inventories. Yeah, those are really important, because you get to learn more about the student as a reader and like how they see themselves as a reader. How do they value reading, their likes and dislikes of reading. Yeah, awesome. Okay, thanks for sharing. We'll keep going. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the stages of reading development. I'm just going to go ahead and read this little quote here. In a developmental theory, literacy is not a single skill that simply gets better. Being literate is very different for a skilled first grader, fourth grader, high school student, and adult. And the effects of school experiences can be quite different at different points in a child's development. So this little chart here is from Jan Richardson's The Next Steps in Guided Reading. And I like this chart because it's pretty simple and it lays it out and it makes sense. Children start off at the pre-A level or pre-readers, which is generally like a preschool or kindergarten level. And then from there, they move to emergent readers, which is levels A through C. Oh, another reason why I like this chart is because at my school site, we have kids using the Fontes and Pinnell levels, which are these like A, B, C, D, E, F, G levels, but There's different levels you can look at, DRA, Lexile levels, and things like that. Yeah, so the emergent readers, levels A through C, which is generally at a kindergarten level. And then the early readers are levels D through I, which is generally like a first grade level. Transitional readers are levels J through P, which is second, third grade level. And then fluent readers, it's P and above, which is generally third through fifth, or this should actually even be even higher than fifth grade, right? So one thing I just want to point out though, like I do like this graphic, but don't get stuck so much on the grade level, like, oh, they should be, this is the grade level. Really what we should be thinking about are these different stages and thinking about, you know, where does my student fall within these stages? Because we can very easily in any classroom today have a fifth grader who's reading at a level D, which is considered the early reading stage, right? Even though that's technically like considered a first grade level, you know, so that's why I don't like to look so much at that grade level type, but more as how are they progressing through these stages as a reader. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about each reading stage. So the pre-reader, this is where the child pretends to read. They can retell a story by looking at the pages because it's been previously read to them multiple times, right? So my daughter's like at this stage right now where like there's books that we read like all the time, and then I go in her room and I catch her quote unquote reading it, right? Because she's kind of memorized it and she's looking at the pictures. She's not really reading the words. Let's see. They could start to name some letters of the alphabet. They can recognize signs and read signs, and possibly start printing their own name, playing with books, and starting to play with pencils and paper. Again, my daughter does this, you know, she's reading all the signs, like she sees the Target logo. She's like, oh, look, it's Target, right? So it seems like, she's reading it, but she's kind of just like memorized the signs, right? Or like, oh, Starbucks, Mama likes Starbucks, you know, so she has those all memorized. But she is reading, right? She's reading the signs. And then after the pre-reader comes the emergent reader. So this is when the child start to learn the relationship between letters and sounds, and between printed and spoken words. The child is able to read simple text containing high frequency words. So text like, I see the cat, or I see the dog. And they could read phonetically regular words. So those words that actually follow the rules when you sound them out. And use skill and insight to sound out these one syllable words like CVC words like cat, at, or mat, at. So that's the emergent reader. And then after that, it's the early reader. And that's where the child uses the text and the pictures to recall and retell and predict in a story. They're able to start monitoring their own reading and confirming their reading and their thinking by checking the pictures or looking at the sounds and words. And they start to use various strategies to decode words by looking through the whole part of the word. So maybe like in the emergent reading stage, sometimes they might be looking like, oh, they'll see, maybe the page says, I see a cat. There's a picture of a cat, but they couldn't read cat, but they look at the picture and then they know cat starts with a C. That word starts with a C, so it must be cat. So they might only be looking at like the first part of the word, where now in an early reader, they're starting to look through the whole word. The transitional reader, so the child rereads text to confirm predictions, to clarify meaning. They start to integrate a meaning, structure, and visual cues while they're reading, and they also start to use strategies to chunk unfamiliar words, and they could read with a little more fluency and phrasing. And then from transitional, they go into a fluent reader. The child focuses on comprehension. So not to say in the other stages you're not going to do comprehension work with the kids, you are, but it might be more just kind of understanding, what did you just read about? Can you retell that? And now as a fluent reader who has fewer decoding issues, they can really start to think about more deeper level of comprehension, like making inferences or synthesizing what they're reading, because they're not struggling to read the words, they could read them. They start to utilize various strategies to build meaning across the text, and they could read fluently with appropriate phrasing. And when they come across these big, huge multisyllabic words, they can use segmentation and syllabication to decode those big, long words. Okay, any questions about the reading stages? I know that was just like quick and easy, just, you know, I just wanted to kind of give you the gist of each one, so that way we can get into some interventions. Awesome. Okay, no problem. All right, so let's move on. So the small group intervention. So this graphic I found and I really liked it. One, because it was cute, but two, because it makes a lot of sense. So it just talks about small group instruction, like what it is. So, you know, whole group instruction is one size fits all, which we know isn't true, right? I mean, whole group instruction is great, but it's not going to meet the kids, meet the needs of all the kids in your classroom. So why do we do small groups? And it kind of lists out some reasons here. And then it kind of lays out, like, you know, because you're working with a small group, obviously there's going to be kids who are not going to be in your group that still need to know what to do. So it kind of breaks down, like, make sure everybody knows what they should be doing during small group time. So during independent time, you know, what does it look like? What does it sound like? What are the kids doing? And then when you're with the teacher, what does it look like? What does it sound like? What are the kids doing? So I like how this graphic kind of just lays it out. Okay, let's keep going. Oops. So I'm going to go through some different interventions for the different reading umbrellas that fit into each of the reading stages. And it's not limited to these only. These are just some of my favorites that I wanted to share with you. And then I'll show you an example either with a video or with a model. So the first one is phonemic awareness. This is generally, right, that pre-reader stage, that pre-A stage. They're not really introduced to letters or text or words yet. A lot of stuff is just done orally, so they can hear the sounds and be able to manipulate the sounds that they hear. So the first one is oral segmenting, or what I like to call robo words. So students will orally segment words into sounds. So it might sound like this. Okay, I'm going to say a word, and then you're going to tell me the sounds you hear in that word. Okay, here's my word, cat. Say cat, cat. Okay, now tell me the sounds you hear like a robot. So then they're going to go at, right? And they're breaking it down like a robot kind of sounds like that. And then this is all done orally. Oh, and I forgot to mention, so I created this list of interventions like pre-COVID, and then when COVID hit and went to virtual learning, I added a column to see, okay, how can these be done virtually? So when you have access to this, because I know some of you might be teaching online still, there's a lot of online academies. So I wanted to show something that we could see how it could be done in person and how it could be done virtually. But this one's all done orally. And then there's oral blending. I call it guess my word. So the students will blend the sounds together. Excuse me, the students are going to say the word that I'm sounding out. So I'm going to sound out a word, and then you have to guess that word. Okay, I'm going to sound it out. Here we go. Ready? Listen. At. Okay, what's my word? And then hopefully they say cat. Again, all done orally. And then another one of my favorites is Elkonian boxes, or some people call them sound boxes. And this is where you place counters, and then they use the counters to kinesthetically, you know, like just move it so they can make the sounds. So no letters or anything, but they're able to manipulate and move the sounds around. And then I provide here just like videos. There's some templates you can use that you can print and download right away, and then how it can be done virtually. But I want to kind of jump into the video real quick. Oops. All right, so I'm just going to show you a small piece of this video, but you'll have access to the full video. Here we go.
So today we're going to work on a new activity. We're going to be listening to a word, and we're going to be separating the sounds to a word. And then we're going to put the sounds together and make that word. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. For each sound, so for instance, the word it, this is the first sound, I'm going to bring down one. The next sound, t, I'm bringing down. All right, so each box represents one sound. And then we're going to pull the sounds together. So we're going to do that for a bunch of different words. All right, I'd like you to say this word, hit. Hit. Okay, now I'd like you to take some squares and put them on your mat for me, please. So let's do this together. You ready? We're going to put a finger on our block. Good. Now let's pull those sounds down. Ready? Again. It, hit. Nice job. How many sounds did they have? Three. Great job. I'm going to get to this time. Here we go. Tooth. Tooth. Nice job. Nice job. Great. Let's try another one.
I just want to stop right there. So you could see they weren't working with letter tiles or words or anything. They just had those, the little squares, and then they had their Elkonin boxes, and then they were dragging the sounds that they heard. So here, I like to use this template because it has boxes like 2 sounds, 3 sounds, 4 sounds, 5 sounds. So generally what I would do is I would say the word, and then I would say, okay, maybe the word's cat. All right, I keep using the word cat because it's the easy one. All right, everybody, we're gonna sound out the word cat. Everybody say cat, cat. Okay, let's stretch out the sounds we hear. Ready? K, at. Cool. All right, let's do it again. Let's count the sounds now. Ready? K, at. How many sounds? 3. Okay, so you got to use the one with 3 boxes. Ready? Go. K, at. So they're like sounding it out several times. They're stretching it out. They're counting the sounds. So I like to use that template, but there's some other ones here too. This is for 4 sounds. Sorry, just kind of scroll down, different sounds here. So this one they could, if they're at the point where they can start writing it, I would not start out with writing though. They would pull their sounds and then they could maybe write it and sound it out. But for the phonemic awareness part, I wouldn't even put it to words yet. The pre-readers, the pre-A readers would not be doing any writing. Okay. And then there's some other templates here that you can use. Now, if you are familiar with Seesaw, Seesaw has some great Elkonin boxes. If you just do a search, Elkonin boxes, tons of them come up. And you can see the templates here, and they would be able to just drag and record themselves saying the sounds. And then it could easily be done on a slide deck as well. This slide deck I really like. This is like a whole, you can use a slide deck as like a whole guided reading intervention because it has like all these different parts. It has Elkonin boxes. It has letter ID, letter sounds, snap words or sight words. And then it gets into guided reading. But I just want to kind of show you how to work with these Elkonin boxes. So the picture, so the word is key. So they would just drag it and they would go key. So here, yeah, so different ones here that you can see there's different pictures. So you can, if you want to use this, make a copy, you can use the pictures and then switch out the pictures each time. Okay, and then it could easily be done on Jamboard, the same process here. Okay, so that's phonemic awareness activities. I'm going to move on to letter and sound recognition. Again, these are my favorites, but it is not limited to these. There are so many more. I like to do letter sorts. So the students have to sort uppercase and lowercase letters and say the name and sound it out. So here I just kind of provided some that are ready to go that you can print out and cut out for your kids. So there's uppercase, lowercase, and then I actually like using these ones because they're uppercase, lowercase, but in different fonts. Because an A in one book might look different from an A in another book, and that's as a kindergartner, it'd be hard. Like, I don't know what letter that is. Like, you do, that's an A, so it looks different. So I like to use that one. And then it could be done on Jamboard and Seesaw as well. And I'm going to show you an example. And then we'll look at the virtual ones after, okay? Then there's picture sorts. So sort a picture based on the beginning sounds that they hear. Words Their Way is a program. It's some books. I love them. You can purchase those because, and they already have like pre-made sorts. You just got to copy, print, cut, put it in little envelopes. So this is just a sample one. These are the concept sorts. So this would be the pre-reader stage. And it explains it, tells you the words, explains it. So I'm just scroll down so you can see some of the pictures. Oh, very long. Yeah, so they have all the pictures made for you. You just got to copy it, cut it out. Those are fun. I like to do those. It could just as easily be done on Jamboard or Seesaw. So let's say you're doing the letters M and R, and all I did here was I just took screenshots from the Words Their Way picture sorts, and then the kids had to just, say the picture rabbit, or this is a rabbit. I had them use a sentence frame, and then sort it under the letter here. Same thing, it could be done on Seesaw. Seesaw has a lot of pre-made ones too already, so you don't have to like recreate it or anything. And then letter chanting. So where the students use an ABC chart and they just chant the sound, the name and the sounds. So it would look something like this. So like here's our letter chart. So we'd go A, apple, A, B, book, B, C, cat, K. And then we would just go through all the letters like that. You might even want to add some hand movements to it too, so the kids can remember it better. So I actually currently am teaching an intervention group, 2 groups of kindergartners. It's called the newcomer intervention because they are new to the country. English is their second language. But what I do, I have them for 30 minutes, and this is what we do. We start with letter chanting. We'll do a letter sort. We do a picture sort, and then we work on some language development stuff. So here's a video of one of my little guys doing the letter sort, and I apologize because it was like a last minute decision, like, oh, I should record this for my session, so the video is kind of like sideways. So but here we go.
C. 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 Letter J. C. C.
Oh, what sound is it, Jamie?
J. 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 J.
Nice.
J. 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 C. J. 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 C.
Okay, so you can see there they have their little envelope. That's where those are those letters that I cut out that I showed you that are in different fonts. I just stick them in a little envelope. They take it out, they pour it on the table, and then they just start sorting. Yeah, so those are some letter and sound recognition activities that I like doing with my kiddos or my intervention groups. Next are some phonics activities. Oh, and I forgot to mention, like, this is like the emergent reader stage, right? This is where they start to put letters and sounds together. And then phonics, this is starting like the emergent and the early reading stages. Some of my favorites, using an analogy chart. So using like word families to read and write other words. And then here is just a blank template of an analogy chart you could print out. The video, we'll watch a small section of this video right now. And then it could also be done virtually, like just on a slide deck, could be done on Seesaw, so they could record themselves. And then making words. So this is really fun. It allows the students to construct words using like a tangible modality. Students can, they arrange their letters to build a word, and then they might change out one letter and add a different letter to create a new word. So this is a really fun one too. I have 2 videos here that that you can watch later. Then there is a program called Making Words. It's like these books that you can buy, and there's already pre-made words for you. But if you don't have that, something else I've done is I just kind of created my own making words template. So here's just a blank template. I have to obviously think about which words I want them to build, you know, which letter can they take away and add to build a new word. And then so I'll just take this and I'll just add letters in here based on the words that I'm going to have them build, print it, you know, cut it, put it in envelopes for them. And then we can do that activity. And then, which again, cannot easily be done on Seesaw. And then, you know, just teaching decoding and reading strategies. So when you come across these words you don't know, like what strategy can you use to decode it and figure it out. So this here is, let's see if it works. It wasn't working earlier. Yeah, like a primary version of different strategies. So you lips of the fish. So get your lips ready. The strategies, get your lips ready. Say the first sound and sound out the word, right? Skippy the frog, skip it, skip the word, read to the end of the sentence, and then hop back to try and read it again. What would make sense? So that's like a primary version. And then I also provided more of like an upper grade version here. And it's kind of like a bookmark, and it just gives them the different strategies they could use. Of course, each of these would have to be taught to the kiddos first, so they would understand how to use them on their own. So I'm going to jump into this video on using analogy charts. So you can see how that one works.
This word, what's this word? Moon. And there's also this word. Old road. In here, there are two vowels, O and O together say ooh, like in moon. Everybody say ooh. And in road, there are two vowels also, but they're two different ones. O and A work together to say O. Everybody say O. So moon and road. I'm going to give you your own, and I'm going to ask you to write moon and road up at the top. And I'm going to say some words, and I want you to see, does it sound the same in the middle, like ooh, like in moon, or does it sound like oh, like in road? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and write.
I'm going to kind of skip forward because it takes them a couple minutes to like set up their board. So I'm just going to skip through a little bit till she gets to her first word. Okay, here we go.
All right, here you go. Now listen carefully. I'm going to say a word. You have to decide, should you spell it underneath moon or should you spell it underneath road, and use the pattern that we see in here to help you spell it. Okay, the first word is spoon. Spoon. Does it sound like moon or does it sound like road? I see most of you put it under moon. Spoon and moon. Let's break spoon apart. It has that same ooh in the middle, so you're right. Spoon should go underneath here. And here's the next one. The next one is zoom. Zoom.
So I'll go ahead and stop it there. So yeah, she's just going to go through a list of words. As you can see, she was kind of looking behind her chart. She had words prepared already, which is very important to have because it's not that easy to just come up with those words on the spot. I mean, it's possible, not easy though. So it's always important to be prepared with the words that you want. So that way it's more effective for the kiddos. Okay, so those are some phonics activities. Keep going here. Some comprehension activities. So this is like early readers and maybe even transitional or beginning of transitional stage. But let's see. So some of my favorites here, guided reading, and I always add like phonics instruction when I do guided reading. So it's just small group reading instruction designed to provide differentiated teaching that supports the students in developing reading proficiency. It's targeted at the students, not their independent level, because they can do that by themselves, but their instructional level. So it can help push them and nudge them to the next level and to the next level and to the next level. So this document here is just kind of what Fontes Pinnell, how they break down what guided reading should look like. So that's a neat little doc that kind of breaks it down if you're not familiar with guided reading. And then of course, guided reading could be done in person or, virtually. So I just wanted to share OCRA on our webpage. We have our favorites. It's called our OCRA bookshelf, our favorite ebook resources here. It's not limited to this. I'm sure there's tons of other ones, but these are some of our favorite ones here. So you could check that out on our website. And then guess the covered word. Generally this is done, generally this is done as one part of a shared reading, of a week-long shared reading, but the guess the covered word itself can be used as an intervention. And I'm gonna actually demo this with you guys in a little bit. So this strategy helps the students practice their MSV, their meaning, the syntax, and their visual cues for unknown words. And I'm going to show you how I do it on Jamboard, and then I'll explain how I would do it if I was in person. And then the who and what strategy. So this helps readers slow down and chunk their reading so that they can process and think about what they read. Because a lot of times children are just read, and then they have no clue what they just read. So children can chunk their text, or you as a teacher can tell them, okay, we're going to read to page 3, or we're going to read this first chapter. Or for some students, I've had some students like, we're just going to read this one page. Okay, we're going to read this one page, and then we're going to do the who what strategy. And basically what they do is, like, after they have their chunk, they read it, they stop, they think who was on the page, what happened. And then they could jot it on a sticky note if they're able to write it, or they can turn and talk to a partner and talk about who was on the page and what happened. What's really cool is when I've done this, like we've done it page by page for some students, they jotted it on a sticky note and they stuck it on the page. And then at the end, they could take out all their sticky notes, put them in order, and then use their sticky notes to retell the important events in the story. So that's a really cool strategy that I like using. But I'm going to jump into guess the covered word. So like I said, guess the covered word could be part of a week-long shared reading, but over spring break, I did a 3-day spring learning, which was like intervention, 3 days of intervention. And I used 3 different poems, but if you were doing this as a shared reading, you would use the same poem for the whole week, and this would just be 1 day of your 5 days. But the kids really like this. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to model it like if you are my students in the classroom. Okay. Okay, readers. So today we're going to play a little game. This little game is called Guess the Covered Word. This is what happens when I read a text and I come across a word I don't know. This is what I can do to help me as a reader figure out that word. Okay, so you can see here that some of the words are covered. You're going to help me try and figure it out. So here we go. My poem's called Sneak Peek. Before my birthday, every week, I creep in the to sneak a peek. Okay, so there's this word that I don't know. So I want you to think, what word could go here? What would make sense and what would sound right? Go ahead and put it in the chat. What do you think? What do you think? What word could go here? And I'll jot that down. So what would make sense here and what would sound right? Living room, thank you. So I would jot that down. What else? What else could it be? It was actually kind of funny when I did this during the spring intervention. I had this one girl and she was just stuck on birthday, and every response she gave was cake. She's like, cake. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna add cake here. And I accept all responses, even if I know it's not gonna make sense. Okay, what else could it be here? Okay, someone said sink. Thank you. Okay, someone said closet. Thank you. And I'm just jotting down. Okay, so you would just gather all the words that the kids think it might be. And then it's like, okay, so now I'm going to take this word, I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to see, does it make sense? And does it sound right? Okay, ready? Before my birthday, every week, I creep in the living room to sneak a peek. So give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Do you think that makes sense and it sounds right, or does it not make sense? It's not right. Yeah, I think it makes sense. Yeah, you're right. Thumbs up. I can creep into a living room. Okay, cool. I'm going to keep that word. All right, let's try cake. Before my birthday every week, I creep in the cake to sneak a peek. What do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Does it sound right? Does it look right? Or does it not? Yeah, and then of course all the kids were like hysterically laughing, like, you can't creep into a cake. I'm like, yeah, right, you can't. So no, okay, I don't think cake's gonna work. So we're gonna cross that one off. Next one, sink. I creep in the sink to sneak a peek. Does that make sense? Is that something someone would do? Does it sound right, or does it not make sense? And they're gonna be like, no, you can't creep into a sink. That doesn't make any sense. So I'm like, no, you're right. So I'm gonna go ahead and cross that one off too. All right, closet. Before my birthday every week, I creep in the closet to sneak a peek. What do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Does it sound right? Does it make sense? Yeah, I think that makes sense. I can creep into a closet. I'll just open the door and kind of creep in, right? I'm going to keep it. Okay, so go through all the words, decide if it makes sense, sounds right. And then next, I'm going to uncover just one letter of the word. Okay, so let's see if I can do this carefully. Oops, too many letters. You didn't see that. Okay, C. Okay, let's go back at the words we have left. Could it be living room? Most of them, hopefully, they're going to say no. Well, why? Why can't it be living room? They're going to say, oh, because it's a C, but living room starts with the L. I'm like, oh, yeah, it doesn't look right, right? This has a C. This is a L. This has a K. This one says, oh, so no, it doesn't look right. Not anymore. I'm going to have to cross off living room. And then closet. How can it be closet? And then hopefully they say, yeah. And then I'll say, well, how do you know it could be closet? And they're going to say, oh, because it starts, they both have a C in the beginning. Like, oh, yeah, it looks right to me because there's a C and there's a C. It has a K and a K. And then, so then I would go through all the words, right? And we'll see which ones it could be or cannot be. And then when I get down to, let's say I had two words that had a C here, then I would go, okay, let's uncover another letter. So you kind of keep uncovering until you get to one word. Oh, CL. And then you kind of go through that same process. Once you get to that last word, like, okay, let's uncover, let's see. Closet, you're right. Okay, let's all read this part together. Here we go. Sneak peek. Before my birthday every week, right? I creep in the closet to sneak a peek. Okay. And then I would just do the same process. So then I'd read through this and be like, oh, can you guess that word? Same thing. Jot what they think it is. Does it make sense? Does it sound right? If not, cross it out. And then you uncover one letter. Does it look right now? Does it look right? And if it does, keep it. If not, cross it out. And you keep going until you get to the last word that you have. Sometimes what's kind of cool when I did this during spring learning, I would uncover like maybe one or two letters, and then the kids would go, oh, maybe it's like something else now. So I can keep adding words as I start to uncover letters, because there was one poem where we had crossed out all the words based on the first letter, because none of them started with a C. But then once they knew it started with a C, they were like, oh, maybe it's closet or maybe it's couch, right? So they're starting to think, okay, what would look right? What would start with a C? So it was kind of cool to see that. So that is guess the covered word. So that's something I would do as part of an intervention that I can use. Then you might even look for like some phonics pieces in it. So in my intervention, I had them look for EE and EA words. And when you get access to this document, the first slide actually breaks down what a week long of shared reading could look like for each poem. Yeah, so those are some comprehension interventions that I enjoy. Some fluency. So shared reading, like I said, shared reading is when you're looking at one text for a week long, and then each day you're going to do a different activity with it. So when I did shared reading in the classroom, it was for 5 days. Day 1 was guess the covered word. Day 2 was the phonics part, where we would look for the EE or the EA. And then day 3 was maybe we're playing with the punctuation. If we changed a period to a question mark, what would it sound like now? And then maybe day 4, we're looking for high frequency words. And then day 5 was always kind of like a celebration, or the kids, we'd read the poem, the kids would get a copy of their poem. They would have like their own little notebook of poems. They would glue it in. They would highlight, underline, all the same stuff we did the previous days, and then they would illustrate it. So shared reading's a good one. Echo reading, so you just read a small segment, students say it back to you. Okay, here's a little video, and again, you can use like an ebook library if you're doing virtually. And then my favorite is working with high frequency words. I have some Jan Richardson activities that I'm going to share with you, but it's a set of 4 activities. And I created this very long 8-minute video that I'm not going to show you the whole 8 minutes today. It's on the OCRA YouTube page, so follow us, subscribe, and then you can watch the whole video. But I'm just going to quickly take you through those 4 activities right now. So this first activity is called What's Missing, and it's all teacher-led. So these activities actually support a gradual release model. So the first activity is heavily scaffolded by the teacher, and the teacher does all the writing and directing, and then it's like a little bit less of the teacher, and then it goes to the student, and then it's, you know, no teachers helping at all. So especially if they're done in this order, then it does support that gradual release model. So let's say you want to practice the word when. Say, okay, boys and girls are okay, we're going to do the word when. This is when. It's W-H-E-N. That spells when. Okay, spell it with me. W-H-E-N. That spells when. Okay, I'm going to erase the letter now. So it's kind of like a little game for the kids. They really love it. So you erase a letter. And you go, okay, what's missing? Hopefully they say E. You're like, you're right, it's E. Okay, let's spell when. W-H-E-N. That spells when. And then you go back again. This time you erase 2 letters. I erase 2 letters. And you say, okay, what's missing? The E and the N. That's right. So you write it in. Okay, let's spell when. W-H-E-N. That spells when. And then you go back again. This time you're going to do 3 letters. I'll erase my 3 letters. Okay, what's missing? Oh yeah, the H-E-N. All right, everybody, it's spell when. W-H-E-N. That spells when. And of course, if you haven't figured out yet, you'll erase all the letters, and you're going to say, okay, help me spell when. And they're going to say W-H-E-N. That spells when. So that was the first activity. That was. So I'm going to kind of fast forward to the next one. The second one is called Mix and Fix. This is where you're going to need either foam letters or magnetic letters. If you don't have those at home, then that's okay. You can easily make your own letter tiles out of paper. So you can just take a strip of paper, write down the letters, and then cut out each of these letters to use for your letter tiles. So for this activity, I'm going to go to my document camera so you can see what the kids would do. Okay, so they would pour out letters, and you say, okay, go ahead and spell the word when. So then they're going to go W-H-E-N. That spells when. And then they're going to mix it up. They're going to do it again. W-H-E-N. That spells when. And then you could have them do it one more time. I'd say do it only 2 or 3 times. Don't need to do any more than that, because again, let's just be quick and easy. So again, they'd go W-H-E-N. That spells when. So that was mix and fix. Then you can also tell them, like, spell it back into your baggie. They're going to go W-H-E-N. That spells when. So again, that was mix and fix. So a little less teacher scaffold.
I did give them the letters that I wanted them to use, but then they were supposed to be manipulating and spelling it by themselves. The next one is called writing on your desk or writing on the table. So not literally, we're actually going to use our magic writing finger here and then say, okay, write it on the table. And then we're going to go W-H-E-N. Okay. So again, this one teacher really had nothing, no support, just okay, go ahead and write it. And then they use their finger and then hopefully they were able to produce the letters and spell it on the table without any support. So that's write on the table, write on the desk. And then the last activity is to write it on the whiteboard. So this time, the kids would get the whiteboard and they would write it on their own. So, okay, write the word when. They're gonna go W-H-E-N, that spells when. You might have them do this 2 or 3 times.
Okay, so those were the 4 activities that I like to do is our sight words. It's really quick. It doesn't take a lot. I mean, of course, the first time you teach anything takes forever, but once they get the hang of it and they get through it, it's 3 to 5 minutes and they go through it quickly. So those are my faves. I actually took all of my favorites plus some more and I threw it all in this document called a menu of interventions that you're going to have access to, and there's videos or stuff you can print. It's broken down again, alphabet recognition, sounds, phonemic awareness, those are all kinds, phonics, fluency, comprehension, so a whole bunch of strategies that you can use with some resources attached to it. And then that's actually it. That's all I have for you today. So if you have any questions, I can stick around for a couple minutes. Or if you don't have a question now, but you think of something later, or if you're checking out that menu of interventions, you're like, oh, I see your resources, but I still don't really understand it. Can you tell me some more? You can go ahead and email me or hit me up on Twitter, and I can help you out with any of that stuff. So hope you enjoyed the session and have a great day.